Good. And we're brainstorming and coming up with good ideas to make Rediscover Winter an experience for everyone.
That's right.
So,
Yes.
so when you were looking for a studio way back in the 2000s,
Yes, in the 2000s. I went to art school.
okay,
I had no intention of painting. I was going to learn about art.
okay,
And I ended up painting because of my friend Ellie.
mm-hmm.
And my kitchen was where I painted. But the only thing is that then it was time to cook. So I had to take everything down and
The dilemma of a emerging artist.
That's the kitchen is the first place. Anyway, then I went to another studio complex and I was there for a long time. And one day we had a storm and the roof blew off and 19 pieces of mine were ruined.
Oh my
And I
word.
said, I think I'll look around.
Okay.
And I discovered Winter Street. And it was so interesting. There were 3 available on Tuesday and I couldn't get here. And on Wednesday there was 1 available. And our dear Susan Butos said, it looks just like you. I think you'll love it. And I was there 9 years.
Wow, nice, very nice.
It was 1/3 this
Do you
time.
think getting a studio helps elevate your work too?
Well, it does at Winter Street because we've got you all. We've got each other. There is a community here that helped develop my art, my taste in art, and my knowledge about art and techniques about art. I don't know how I could have gotten this far without it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are my friends.
Yes, yes.
And it's funny, I'm a native Houstonian, and I moved away when I married, and I came back and I felt like I didn't know anybody. My old friends were still friends, but they had their lives had moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And a really good friend of mine in Austin, who's a commercial photographer, said, I think you're going to find art is going to bring you some friends in your life. And these are my friends.
I got to witness at the last artist talk that was associated with the WOW show, a really special friendship that you said changed your life and brought you into becoming an artist, and that was with Miss Ellen Arsack.
That's right.
And these guys had a really good little banter.
Yes, we did. Always.
And I developed a podcast called Artists of Houston just because I wanted to draw people into Second Saturdays, because I love Second Saturdays at Winter Street. And hey, friends everywhere. Yeah. And
should I go answer it?
I don't know. They really want to come in. They really want to come in.
It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Let's see.
Let's see who it could be. It's a surprise guest.
Something. We've been waiting.
It's a surprise guest.
Okay.
Cookie, take a bow. Cookie. Young camera, come on. Cookie, no, you got. She's got.
Can't leave now.
I can't. Oh.
And she was networking. She found a painting
Oh, look at
that she wanted me to see. And that's one of my friends I never would have met if it weren't for my association. Art's changed my life completely.
Yeah.
And the artist friends are genuine, hopeful. I mean, it's not like I'm meeting them at the club.
Right.
We're down here working.
Well, becoming an artist, being an artist, for anyone who's not that in the audience, is what I've discovered, a true struggle and sometimes burden. But there's nothing else to do. It's like it's what I have to do. So everyone's nodding their head, agreeing. Yeah. So you agree as well, I'm sure.
It breathed air into my life.
Wow.
And
How can you say anything else?
I
That's
love
beautiful.
every minute that I'm here, and I have a struggle right now. I'm going to bring to powwow with the client that I want to hear what other people would do. Powwow is a new
think tank for our building.
For artists that want to get together and talk about issues. And I have an issue that I need help with, and I am so happy I've got that resource. But
one of the great things too, you start to discover what this friendship is like. You realize you're talking to, I'm talking to a celebrity. This woman had a life of this or this career of that. And Marthann is one of those people. She was
a celebrity, but
you were. She taught Martha Stewart everything she knows.
Oh, yeah, that happened for sure.
Yeah,
I've been to her house.
have you really?
Yeah, her neighbors hate her.
Where's the edit?
Well, I'll tell you, my neighbors were not so happy when the truck drove up to my house either, because they have the big antennas that go up into the old trees that no one does anything but kiss. And her issue was she had a big truck that was 3 times the size of the one my station had, and parked it on Turkey Ridge Road in this gravel, gorgeous little perfect Connecticut neighborhood.
But you were a anchor or
on-air personality.
On-air personality.
For 10 years.
For 10 years. Interviewing, tell them, would you?
Well,
interviewing farmers about their eggs and whatnot. No, seriously, she had to draw. And I found
garlic.
that garlic.
What it was, I produced it, and so I got to do what I thought was a good idea, and sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. But it was always funny, because I was not a trained professional, I just did it. I think you understand that.
I know, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Anyway, so I was a caterer in Houston and catered for famous people. And that segued into a television show about food and lifestyle and entertaining is the tag that they would put on it. So anything I thought was interesting, like I did a story in the wintertime. It was in the Midwest. The first 5 years I was in the Midwest, the second on the East Coast, and it was cold in Michigan and snowy, so you couldn't do fruit and vegetables that time of year. So I designed a whole story about how to fix up your guest bedroom waiting for your guests, and I had these little very original ideas, and lo and behold, they caught on. And then I read about it in a magazine. Someone picked up the tips and wrote about it, but that means it was good. I mean, it doesn't have to be mine, but it was a good idea. And then I went to talk to farmers in the summertime about food, and I found it to be so fascinating that I told Rhonda this. I got lost in the interview, and that's good, because that means you're genuinely focused on the topic and your subject. And I learned things like garlic is part of the lily family. Well, I didn't know that. And some have stems that go up with buds, not flowers, but they're part of the lily family. So then I take garlic and go back to my kitchen and cook a meal. So it was doing what I love to do. And I thought when I moved back to Houston, I'd go right on the air. I'm a hometown girl. Now I had 10 years of experience. And of course, Houston has no fluff. They have murder and hard, that's it. And so that's how I ended up in art. I thought, well, I'll go back to school, and I got a nudge from an artist friend of mine, very good friend, and I end up here. How many years later? It's still hard for me to say I'm an artist, because I feel like, well, I am now, but I was that back then. But I am an artist, and I sell my work, and I love every minute of painting. It never gets old.
No, it never gets old. It's always, like you said, it put breath in you.
It did.
And I think it feeds us too, for sure. You've had some really good success, winning competitions. I mean, you and in different series. You've moved from. You have this chair series, which I love the chair.
Yeah, I did.
I noticed you have these nice little chairs in the corner over here.
Those are my models.
Your models?
Moved from the top of the table to the corner on the floor.
Okay, but they'll get back on top of the table, I'm sure. But tell us about that chair inspiration and what got you going with that and where it went, because I know it was
Thank you for
big,
asking about that, Rhonda,
Absolutely.
because it's very meaningful to me. I did a self-portrait, which is in my studio, and a gallery owner asked me to do a painting for a show. I had no idea what that meant. And so I said, well, what, He said, make it big and go deep, go deep. And so I went deep, and the overriding feeling I've had most of my life was being different, being on the outside. And I was a middle child, and I was always in trouble. Bad.
I don't believe that.
It was. I'll give you my sister's number, and they'll tell you. But and I never felt like I measured up completely. But I painted this painting, and it was in pastel, and it was, I think, 48 by 36, which was enormous. I did it in the kitchen. I had pastel. Remember, I told you I had pastel everywhere. But it was significant because it was a story about being on the outside, and the painting's in the other room. But it has a chair facing outward and a circle of chairs at the top. And each chair, one is whole and colorful, and then they lose a back spoke, a leg, as they go around, and it ends up with just a shadow of a seat. And it's significant because my family, my parents died when I was 16, so it broke all ties to the family. And they'd have Christmas parties, and they just forgot about us. I don't fault them a lot.
That sounds.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really hurtful, though. Very.
It was. I felt excluded.
Sure.
So the chair down at the bottom is strong and colorful and bold and has great lines, and that's me. And I'm facing away because I made a name for myself. I did it without the help of the family. And so it's called On the Outside. And one day I was playing with the computer, and I saw this thing that said, embracing our differences. Artist, please submit your form. Mm-hmm. So I did, but it was at 5 o'clock. It was 5 o'clock, and it had to be in by midnight. And they wanted a CD, and I had no clue. I didn't know April and Taylor and all of you all back then to help me. So we got it downtown to the mailbox back in 2009. They had one, and got it there in time. And I got a call, and they said, "We love your chairs. We love them, but the image is not big enough. So if you have till noon. Don't tell anybody. We're holding it anyway." It ended up being selected for the exhibition, and it was one of 15 out of 4,000 entries. International.
International. That's amazing.
And it was so inspiring, and they blew it up the size of that wall, and it was an outdoor exhibition. And then about 3 or 4 years later, I got a call from the Sarasota, Florida Ballet Company, and they wrote a ballet about my painting and used the image behind the stage as the backdrop. So that was my first big painting, and I thought, now what? And
no. But you continued with this
chair.
I didn't know all the background on that chair story.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not know all that. I knew there was some symbolism, but I didn't know the importance, so that's really cool. And you continued the chair series.
I had
Did
one.
you call it a chair series, or did you, the Outsider, did you have a name for a series?
They were all about me.
Okay.
I had one called All Dressed Up and Nowhere to Go, which is this darling fancy chair. And it was about my senior prom, and I got stood up,
Oh, no.
but it had a good ending because
Uh-huh.
I got him back really stunning. Took a few years, but it just the opportunity opened up.
Do you see why I really like it? She's got some insights.
But that was telling stories. It's a different kind of art.
Yeah.
And I worked through a lot
Right.
telling those stories. I have one called Cinderella that is a big blue painting and a flat painting. It's of boards that don't match, and it's making yourself a person or a chair in this incident, a whole person out of found pieces. And I felt like I had found pieces and made myself a chair.
Perfect.
So
Yes.
anyway,
That's fascinating. I appreciate that, to have the insight into something. Obviously, these things, sometimes they bubble up, and you don't know where they come from.
that's
you know?
right.
And then the meanings either are born from it, or they show themselves to you, to
It's
what
amazing.
what the meanings are.
Yeah.
So that's a real mature artist, I think, to have that insight. I know I was barreling through just like painting belly dancers and whatever.
I think that's fascinating.
Well, but I loved it. I love a thought behind something, so I appreciate that. That's awesome. So you did that for a long time and moved on, and now we are surrounded by these beautiful paintings, and there's stories behind these paintings too.
And Ellie told me this, and I said,
I think your beautiful friend at the door interrupted. I didn't finish my thought. No. But I was saying for our WOW show and the artist talks that we did, and I recorded them for the podcast, The Artist of Houston. And so you can go there and listen to Marthann talking to Ellie and about their relationship that changed Marthann's life and how it developed. I thought that was a very fascinating and successful discussion. So go there. I don't think I finished that thought. But
Ellie is an art instructor now. She never taught, and I never painted anyway. Our relationship developed a talent that we are now enjoying. And I said, well, I don't know about this painting, blah, 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 blah. She said, well, what's the title? I said, the title, it's an abstract. I don't know yet. Oh, yes.
You better come up with something.
You better have a title before you start painting. So this is Butterfingers because I was hungry and that looked like a Butterfingers cracker. That's how deep I go now.
Sometimes it's like that too. What do you do? Yeah.
That's right.
That's great. And you had a name for the drips, or you named the painting. The one that was in the WOW show, the double.
This is in the WOW show,
This was the
Butterfingers.
But you had a name for these drips.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. I used to paint canvas stapled to the wall, flat. So the drips were even, and I could wrap the canvas around a frame, and then there would be no break. The frame would be as beautiful as, the sides as the front. And I lost my framer man for a while. He's resurfaced now. But I had to start painting on store-bought frames. So I painted one day, all day long, and I came back the next morning, and there were these little darling, there on this one, you can see up at the top, these drips that I didn't want to call them drips. That sounded so unglamorous. And I didn't know what to call them, and I told my husband, I have these dingleberries that are hanging off of my painting. He said, that's not the name you want to go with. So I call them pearls. That have these little pearls.
Okay. That's very great. Is there anything you want to talk about for an inspiration in the future, maybe? I had someone come into my studio on second Saturday, which this happens. A lot of people come into your studio, and they say the darndest things.
They do.
But this was the future. The future is crazy, is what I think what the guy said. And I just thought that was really cool.
I'm about to make big changes.
What you got coming?
Well, it's going to be abstract,
Okay.
and I'm going to push colors around that don't ordinarily go together and make soft, beautiful, but very abstract. I'll always do the drips. They're the ones who pay for the gas.
Okay.
And let's hope that lasts. But
Yeah.
I'm ready to make a change, so it'll be interesting. I'll need you to help me with that.
Well, we'll be here every second Saturday checking in on you and seeing what you got going on.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Any questions? You guys have any questions for Marthann? We're saving time for that.
They're all my friends.
That's great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.
We're going to